Pew Research spent a considerable amount of time and interviewed about 2,500 people in order to tell us something that we already suspected. Democrats and Republicans don't seem to agree on much, and they especially don't agree on the issue of higher education and whether or not it has a positive impact on society. Now, there were a number of issues that were looked at during this survey, but there were some interesting outcomes that I want to share with you guys. First off, the survey found that a majority of Republicans and Republican-leaning independents, about 58%, now say that colleges and universities have a negative effect on the country, and that's actually up from 45% last year. So the most notable thing about this is that there has been a huge difference in their opinion regarding higher education in a relatively short period of time. So in September of 2015, for instance, 54% of Republicans said colleges and universities had a positive impact. 37% rated their impact negatively. So let's quickly look at Democrats and compare them. So most Democrats and Democratic leaners, 72%, say colleges and universities have a positive effect. So you see that there's a pretty stark difference between Republicans and Democrats when it comes to the issue of higher education. Yeah.
So if you do effective propaganda, you could almost get, well, first of all, humans, honestly, to do anything, right? Almost anything, right? And we've seen that in horrific situations throughout history. It's not one particular class of people. But if you're authoritarian by nature, you're more likely to believe people in authority, positions of authority. Well, that makes you more of a conservative. That is part of what is a conservative. Liberals have less deference to authority. And in fact, conservatives frown upon that. They go, the liberals, they won't listen to their priests and their leaders, etc., right? Well, then that allows you to be more susceptible to propaganda if your leaders decide to go in one direction. And in this case, they have. And so Republicans' opinions on colleges and universities have dropped by 18 points in just 2 years.
Oh, there we go. That was the stat that I was looking for. Yeah.
So that is a gigantic drop. And speaking of propaganda, if you look at this whole survey, by the way, it's not just colleges and universities. It's what we tell you about all the time. Republicans have a poor opinion of the national news media. They didn't test it in this case, but science, they have a poor opinion of science overall. But they have a very high opinion of churches and religious figures.
So do most Democrats.
That's right.
There's a difference between Democrats and Republicans, but the difference regarding religion isn't that stark, believe it or not. We'll get to that in just a second. But regarding education, I think that there is also something else at play, and you briefly touched on it. So the issue of propaganda, right? What I've noticed over the last couple years is that people in the media and politicians who are educated, who have obtained a college education, many of which have gone to Ivy League schools, are fighting tooth and nail to tear public education apart and to belittle or minimize the importance of obtaining a college education, right? And I think the whole reason why they do that is because they want to keep you stupid. And unfortunately, there is a political party that's falling for it. They want to convince you that education is bad for you, that it's actually destructive to society. But what is the #1 indicator of whether or not you're going to have great economic opportunities in the future or decent economic opportunities in the future? It's if you have an education, right? How do you protect yourself from scams and people who want to take advantage of you? If you're not ignorant, if you are educated, if you know what's really going on, how the world works, how things work around you, they want to keep you stupid. And while they do this, while they push their ridiculous anti-education propaganda out there, and while people buy into it, what are they doing? They're easily taking money out of public schools, funding these vouchers, funding these private schools that don't have to abide by educational standards at all in a lot of cases, and we're allowing them to basically destruct the one thing that really leads to a level playing field in America.
It's interesting, to the point you made earlier, for Republicans that make less than $30,000, 46% that say that colleges and universities have a positive effect. So relative to the others, it's actually a high number. For Republicans who make over $30,000, that number drops all the way down to 32% saying positive effect. So if you don't have money as a Republican, you think, well, going to college might be a good thing, the way to improve myself, right?
Right.
For the Republicans who do have money, they go, nah, no, college is a bad thing.
Right, and look, there are so many caveats and so many nuances to what we're talking about, because look, there is a huge downside to getting a higher education right now, right? You go into debt, and that's something that needs to be reformed. It's something that needs to change. That doesn't mean that higher education is a bad thing. It means that the way that we're funding it, the way that we're charging students, that's a bad thing. That absolutely does need to be reformed. But when Republicans are criticizing higher education, they're not criticizing it because they feel bad for the amount of money that students have to take out for loans. They're criticizing it because they think, oh, they go there. Ann Coulter has a chapter in her book, which I'm unfortunately having to read because I'm about to debate her, right? And she talks about how the only purpose for higher education is to churn out social justice warriors. That's it. That's all they do. They
She went to Cornell.
She went to Cornell.
Come on.
You think don't let her treat you like you're stupid, okay? She got her higher education. She knows the way the world works. She and other Republicans, conservatives, they know how the world works. If you don't have any education, if you don't have higher education, your chances of earning a decent income in this country, very slim, okay?
Yeah, well, so Ann Coulter and all the other conservatives can't fill your head with junk if you already learned something about the world.
Right.
So whatever you do, don't trust colleges, don't trust the media, don't trust science, don't trust anything that brings you facts. If you went to a real university, you might not then go to Trump University, and that would cost Donald Trump some money.
Yeah.
If you like this video, you probably like independent media. The best way to support independent media, become a member of the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.